of all, just tell me a little bit about you.
Oh, Sam Hartman. I came to America when I was when I was young, close to 4. And I grew up under kind of loosely Shinto Buddhist, and did a lot of crazy bad things and whatnot, and came to Christ when I was 30, which was actually nobody brought me into it. I had an experience, and I became a Christian. And
Tell me a little bit about that, if you would.
yeah, okay. About the moment that it happened.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So, I really did not like Christians when I grew up. First of all, if you told me I was going to become a Christian at all, even a minute before that, I would have told you no. So I'm working on a job site. Nothing big deal. It's my own job site and no pressures. And all of a sudden I felt like guilt, shame, and pain, and it actually hurt me. It hurt me bad in the chest, like my chest was going to explode. And I started bawling, literally bawling. I couldn't even breathe. And it was as if a weight was on me, and I fell to the floor. And the only thing I could think of saying, the only thing that came to me was, okay, I'm yours. Do with me what you will.
Wow.
And all that guilt and shame and pain was gone. I was still a mess. And that was the start of it. Then it was a journey of trying to figure out, what do I do next? I had a lot of friends. They weren't Christians. They were anything from Satanists to Buddhists to atheists, whatever. No Christians. And some of them would be like, it sounded like a panic attack or something. I'm like, well, you know me. I'm not that kind of way. They're like, okay. But how did you know which God? And I was just like, I just know. And so that was the start of my journey. Yeah. And so got involved with church, rapidly got involved in ministry because I also ended up working at that church. And I consumed the pastor's library. I mean, went through it, read everything, listened to everything. I consumed the church's library. I was really hungry to that. And then on top of that, God really blessed me in the fact that he put people in my life. I had met an old navigator, and he kind of walked beside me and things like that. And also, I got involved. I was in a, it's like a little bit more of a stricter church. But then I started meeting all these other people that were charismatic or Pentecostal or, Methodist or whatever. And we started running together. And it was just like, oh man, it's like there's no, it's like we just love God and we want to do things. Because it's funny, when you're not a Christian and you look at the sphere of Christianity, when you're looking at that, typically you see one tribe. It's like they're Christians, there's Christians. But when you come into Christianity, all of a sudden there's all these tribes. And some of them feud, some of them don't talk, and stuff. And it's like, it boggles my mind. It's like, it boggles my mind because we all follow the same Savior. So that makes us brothers and sisters.
Sure. So tell me about, in your journey,
Yeah.
coming to what you're doing with this ministry now. How'd that come about?
Oh, wow. Okay. I got involved in prison ministry, specifically county level. And it was kind of interesting at first. It's like, whoa. But then I'm like, I did everything these people have done. I just never got caught. And honestly, they're incredible people. They made bad choices, and that's what happens. And sometimes what really got me to here was that all of a sudden you see somebody's life gets transformed and they get really on fire for God. And then when they're looking at release time, they go, "Hey, I'm getting out soon, and I'm going back here, wherever here is. It's like here's all over the place." And they go, "Can you hook me up with a church, a group, or anything like that, so I can continue my journey?" And then you have to actually look at them and you have to say, "I don't." I talked to many prison ministers across the state, here and there, and they all have a similar story. And I wrestled with it for a long time. I wrestled with God. I'm a wrestler, okay? I'm not like, oh, it's like, I felt he laid something on my heart to do. I wrestled with him for about a year, but it was weird moments, and it may sound strange for some, but my heart would hurt, literally hurt. And I would, I'd be in tears sometimes. And because I'm like, I'm not the right guy. There are other people that are better. They're more qualified, more connected. They speak better, whatever. You can think of
Sure.
1,000 excuses. And finally, I came to the conclusion towards the end of the last year that, okay, if this really is of God, then that means that he will have prepared people's hearts for that do this. And we do it together because it's not me, it's all of us. And so I shared it with a man. He's Carl. He's a Mennonite pastor, executive director of Yoke Fellowship. And I just threw it at him. And he just looked at me. He's just like, we have to meet. And he's kind of been, he's not running the show or anything. He's kind of like, he takes my ideas because my ideas may be like this. And Carl has been exceptional of going like this, help me go like that. And so that is where the Hopeful Bridge comes out of. And because it just boggles my mind. When I started talking to ministries, ministers, churches, whatever, we're all out there, but we're so fractured, we're so disconnected that sometimes you feel like you're alone.
Sure.
And there are certain groups out there that are so good at doing this and other ones this, and, different giftings, different callings. And so in this day and age with the internet, you can make a directory where all of a sudden there's a potential that they can come under here where they can be contacted, or, it's like put their contact information. And when a minister is going into the prison and you have somebody who's going to be released soon or looking at it, starting to make the plans of transition, they can then get informed of these ministries from where they're going back home to. And all of a sudden, they can even possibly start writing letters to pastors, to ministries, start developing that relationship. And then possibly helping the integration be seamless. There are many things I read a lot of studies, and there's many things, elements that come into being for this individual to be successful. Job, housing, reunification with the family. Faith plays into this. And all these things are a part of this. And, it's like we're the church. We're the church. And we are to receive the sojourner, the traveler, the prisoner, the widow, the orphan. And so that is That is a part of that. There are citizens out there. There's so much shame and pain that comes with this. And one of the things I argue for is the broadening of the idea of what prison ministry is. Because when that individual goes to prison, you have a family possibly left on the outside. To give you a really crazy statistic, 2014, there was a study done in state prisons across the nation. And it was to see how many of those people had a child. Okay? Pennsylvania alone, just in state prison, had 81,000 children that had at least one parent in prison. That's 3% of the children of that year. That's just state. So I actually have this stuff cited on my forum. And the thing of it is that, okay, if you add the county jails and you add federal and stuff, I came up with a potential, and I kept the number down low, an estimate of around 130-some thousand children had at least one parent incarcerated in 2014. You now have brought that number up to about 5%. Now you also, I'm really pleased to say that Women's Clinic has joined PRC in State College, because this is like, I didn't have this idea, but it just boom, and I'm like, oh, I got to jump on that. What happens when this guy ends up in jail? You hear so many stories of a woman being left outside, be it married or a girlfriend, whatever, and she is pregnant. She's facing a lot of stuff, and she might make a choice that she's going to regret in the future. And so these women's resource centers can potentially be contacted as well and walk alongside her and stuff, you know, showing these people love, all of them. And it's like, and with the end goal, not just for social, you know, whatever people talk about, but for the sake of showing Christ's love, with the definite intent of bringing them into the community of God. And this is the whole goal of it. And yeah, so we got families out there, that are out in the cold as well. And typically, there was a Department of Justice paper I had read. It said that most individuals, not all, most, that end up incarcerated are most likely from marginalized families and communities themselves. We can look at this with despair, but if we, the church, rose up, wow, what an opportunity.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So the Hopeful Bridge is an opportunity for people that are going to be getting out of prison, that you do your best to connect them with a church or where they're heading.
Yep.
And do you have any stories that you could tell me of how you've seen this?
Yeah, actually, yeah, I had the honor. The directory went live in the middle of July. Yes, middle of June. Excuse me, June or July, anyhow. So, and I got word that a pastor in Mifflin County used it to share with a person that's going to be reentering society. And recently, actually, I had just been contacted by that individual, and that individual, he didn't grow up here. This is not his home. He actually moved to Altoona just last week. And on top of that, he got involved in church and prison, and he apparently has been given the okay to help establish a prison ministry or prison, it's like reentry type stuff here in Altoona, in Pennsylvania. It's a group outside of from California. And so one of the coolest things is, so, I mean, this is all coincidental stuff. He moves to Altoona. Well, he happened to move like 5 minutes away from Center City Church, which is the first church that's signed up for the directory in Altoona. And it's like, it's so, I reached out to Jim, the pastor of that church, to connect with my friend and to possibly talk it out to see how this is going to work, because we can all have our great plans,
Sure.
but we just go, if you just go with it. That's another thing with this ministry, the Hopeful Bridge. I tried to make really great plans in the beginning, and it ended up kind of faltering a lot. And then all of a sudden, I switched gears. And instead of trying to strategize and all this and that stuff, I started just going where I felt God leading. It's been insane. It's crazy. It's like my one friend, Bob, who goes along with me to some meetings and stuff. He's just like, it's just fun to watch, God do his thing. And it has been so impressive. And, people can talk about coincidences all they want. There's so many, they are so strong, and they are so connected that it's just like, what do you say about that? So, yeah, so it's been cool.